You can get to the top very, very quickly, but there's a reason that they say it's lonely at the top, because there's only room for one. Every year I was working minimum 40 or 45 weeks out of the year,
Wow.
which, hell of a way to keep a wife on layaway back home,
Take us through the steps of your career a little bit.
Oh, goodness, man. I mean, it was just a matter of open micing very early on, as much relentlessly, just all of Northern California. My manager at the time, the guy, because it was a couple, and the guy, we were having like lunch at Jerry's Deli. He sat across from me, non-ironically in a captain's hat, and told me that he didn't see value in me as a stand-up comic. Like, I've had too many comics who I was in the car with or at the bar with after the show on their third, fourth marriage with a drink in their hand going, "Don't do what I did, kid. I was gone my whole life. I did all the bad things. I cheated. My kids, they're grown. They don't really like me now. They kind of just tolerate me. Don't do what I did." And I was like, well, what do I have to do to prove you wrong?
Myles Weber, lots of activity, lots to get into. I want to know the origin story. That's what we usually do. So take us back. Are you from San Francisco? Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Vallejo, California, which is about 30 miles north of San Francisco. So born and raised there, bounced around Northern California a bit before I lived in LA for a couple of years. Came back to Northern California, lived in Vegas for a little longer than the pandemic, essentially, and have found myself back in my hometown now. So bouncing around the same west side of the United States, essentially.
Right. Were you always the funny guy in school? Tell us a little about that. Like, what's the impetus for your career, do you think?
Yeah, man. I was always a pretty goofy or silly kid. I just tried to be a little bit more calculated. I talk about in my act how, I learned early on that as long as you made the teacher laugh, then you will probably relinquish yourself from any liability or any trouble that you might get in. And so I did everything I could try and play to the kids in the class, but I also tried to make the teachers laugh because that would give me a little bit more leeway with things. And I mean, a couple times I might have gotten away with things where, other kids might have gotten like an actual trouble, but with me, they'd just been like, "Stop it." And I was like, "Sorry, my bad." So yeah, man, I was always a silly, rambunctious, goofy kid. I think as I became a teenager, I probably got a little bit more like quieter and weird. But yeah, man, I was always a weird, funny kid, and then found stand up as a young kid as well. I was 8 and snuck out of bed, and my parents were watching George Carlin, and so my teacher had to tell me what he was doing and everything, and what a comedian was. And so from then on, did my talent show in 5th grade, did 5 minutes there, did well in that, and then it was just a matter of watching Comedy Central and HBO on Black Box Cable all the way through my teen years before I tried out an open mic for the first time right out of high school, and I've been doing it ever since. So I've been 16 years now doing stand-up.
Started with the Carlin. That was it. That was the inciting incident, huh?
Yeah, it was interesting to me because, I knew music when I was a kid. I understood music of like a band being on stage and they're playing songs and people were like, "Oh yeah, we'll go see the band play songs." So that made sense to me. But just seeing a guy up there by himself talking, not even singing or anything, I was just so puzzled that he had everybody captivated. So that was the thing to me that was more interesting, I think, than music, which always looked like and felt like a big production. And I was around a lot of like music productions as a kid as well, and seeing how much work went into that. And so then seeing how there's sometimes it could also just be one guy talking, I was very, very curious, and I always liked making people laugh. And so that's when I was just like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that was a thing. All right, well, then I'll just do that.
What was that first place that you performed at?
The first place I performed at as an adult was my home club that is no longer there. It used to be in Fairfield, California. It was called Pepper Bellies. And so it was just a comedy club in between 2 other slabs of busy land. So, that's probably about 45 minutes from San Francisco and about 45 minutes from Sacramento. So it was just directly in the center of, places where there was a lot of people and their own respective comedy scenes and comedy clubs. So having that be kind of like the redheaded stepchild of that area made sense for me to be going there and doing my first set at an open mic there. And so I brought all my friends. I brought like 30 friends, and I told them, I was like, if I suck, laugh and just tell me afterwards that I suck. I couldn't take it in the moment to not do well because I really wanted to do well. And so I did my set. It was filthy and it was terrible, but they were like, that was really funny and it was actually good. We enjoyed it. So keep going. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, this is good. And then I went back, same place the next week with nobody, the same 5 minutes, and proceeded to bomb myself back to the Stone Age. And the bomb for me was the thing that I was like, oh, this is interesting. I did the same thing in the same place, and yet completely different outcome because stand-up very much so is a puzzle that you'll never solve, ever. You'll never get the same audience twice. Even if you were to take the same human beings in the same building and put them there on 2 separate nights. Those are different people now. Like they've had a different day, different things have happened. They're in a different mood. They're looking forward to different things. Like there's so many variables that now make them different than what you saw the last night that, yeah, you will never, ever play the same audience twice. And you're always only as good as your last set. So the unbeatability of it was what struck my curiosity about stand-up comedy. And to this day, still is the thing that I find myself when things aren't going the way you want them to go, or, you know, you might be having a little imposter syndrome that creeps in, just to be able to sit back and go, I talk for a living and I'm chasing the dragon and I'll never catch it. And there's a simplistic joy in that, I think, that I really appreciate about stand-up.
You had that high level of consciousness back then when you asked yourself, because that's what Einstein says, what contributed to his success was he was curious. I mean, when you were bombed, you got curious. You didn't get like, yeah, that's amazing, because a lot of people are like, well, maybe I suck and I don't belong, and they don't go up. And usually the best way to get over being bombing is going right back up again and try something else. So what did that look like after that second time at the same place?
Oh, after the second time, it was relentless. Every aspect of my life, I was just committed to this. So, I mean, I was passively in community college, just kind of moving my way through classes just to try and figure out if there was anything else I wanted to do. But once I did those open mics, I was like, oh, this is it. And so immediately I just started taking classes that I thought would help. And so I took like 5 English classes, 2 creative writing classes, public speaking, debate, human psychology, all these things that I figured would help because it just made sense to me. And all of those things are 100% things that help, that now comedians who I advise and coach on the side, I tell them, hey, man, like there are things that you could do at a collegiate level that is going to have a direct effect on what you're doing. English makes sense because it's like we speak English. You need to play with the words. You need to know the ins and outs and the forwards and backwards of every aspect of this language, and you need to be a student of the game constantly and how it evolves. Because that's the whole thing with English is it's constantly in a state of evolution every other day. So that one just made sense to me, but every other aspect of it also just fell right in line. I think I was like 5 units away from getting a degree or something in English. And then I was like, nah, I think I took all the classes. The only thing I got left is like a math class. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And so it was like between me and a full actual degree in something that was tangible was a math class that I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. It was like statistics. I'm like, I'm not going to do statistics. That's not going to be a thing. And so I just stopped then and was just hitting comedy full time while my friends were, you know, doing kegers in college and getting that whole experience. I was in the car on the road with guys twice my age while they were telling me road stories and how they were on their 3rd marriage and why I shouldn't be like them, you know? Wow. So that was just, I was completely and totally irrevocably dedicated to everything stand-up comedy, to where now as I look back, I was like, there was nothing else I was really doing. You know, it was a wonder I even dated anybody in my 20s, is because it's just like, you know, well, what are your hobbies? It's like, I do stand-up and I exercise. So that was all I was doing in my 20s, man.
This is fascinating. What do you think that resilience came from? Like, what was the psychology? Because, you know, that's a pretty heady thing where it's like, yeah, bombs, like, let's just keep going up again, you know, let's just keep going and just keep, you know, I mean, did you have some more wins than you're saying? Or did you really have, you know, a lot of stretches to where it's like, you know?
Oh, there were stretches where I was bombing and it wasn't going well, especially early on, because you're just getting your footing. You're doing open mics, which are usually like a handful of comics and then like 2 people who were there at that business and didn't know this was going on tonight. They just wanted to play pool. But now your stand-up comedy open mic is ruining their Wednesday night pool game. And so it's a very combative way to start any art form, but now in hindsight, it's so necessary because you need to bomb as much as you can early on so it doesn't hurt and you don't take it personally. Because I think that's, to me, the thing that I find myself telling every comic when they're like, if there's one piece of advice you can give any stand-up comedian, what would it be? And I always say, don't take anything personally. If you can learn to take nothing in this industry that happens to you personally, anything, you will be Teflon. You will go as high up on the mountain as you want to go. You will make the house that is the exact size and dimensions that you want it to be made, and it will have the exact view that you want it to have. Like, not taking things personally is so important. And that's not just from like, don't take bombing personally as a, like, oh, they didn't like me as a person. No, they just didn't like your jokes. The thing you were doing. It doesn't mean you're a fundamentally flawed human being who shouldn't exist anymore. No, it's just you did a thing. They didn't like the thing. Now we have feedback. That's information. Use it. Do better next time. What did we learn? How do we go forward with this information in mind? So that was a constant thing that was happening. There was a place in San Francisco, and it was it was predominantly a gay show, and my buddy booked it. And it was right in the Castro at the Harvey Milk Bar. So the gayest bar in all of San Francisco. And they were doing like, it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday night show. And it was just a showcase with a bunch of comics. And so I went up there and I bombed horrifically. And I remember being in the back of the room and I was standing behind this table of two guys and the comic after me was on. And I heard the guy lean over to the guy next to him and went, oh, well, he's a lot better than the last guy. And I was like, oh, God, I'm like 4 feet behind you. And so I was like, I need to come back here. I need to figure this out. Like, and so I told my friend, I was like, can I come back here like every month? I know you do it every week. Can I just come back like once a month and do a spot? Because I need to figure this out. I can't just... It can't be that bad. Like, these people came here, they knew it was a comedy show, they came to laugh, they have to laugh. And so I went back every month and it took me like 11 months. And then finally I cracked it and I was like, oh, okay, right on. The big thing for me was gay people are just funny. That's the thing. Like, just already gay people and black women. They're just already at the peak, at the precipice of humor. They're just born with it in their brains. And so you really got to hit them hard and often. And you got to have a real strong sense of self of who you are, because they really know and can smell on you when you're trying to be somebody else. And that was very much so me in my 20s. And so it did kind of help me come into my own on stage doing shows like that with a certain type of psychotic repetition to be like, no, this is something I'm going to figure out. I have to figure this out. And then a couple of years later, he let me close it out. And it was like this big full circle moment, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that in and of itself, I think in a nutshell, is just kind of like the whole precipice of just like, don't take it personally. Because I mean, if you can get through this, there's going to be a victory on the other side of it. And then from a standpoint of just like the business side of stand-up comedy, don't take it personally when the booker doesn't get back to you. Don't take it personally when something goes awry at the club and it was out of your control, but you happen to be on stage when the thing happened and now you think the staff hates you. Don't take it personally. And so there are so many aspects of life and this game in particular that it's just like, don't take it personally. And I don't know what it was in me when I was in my early 20s that I did that second open mic and bombed, and that was just inherently in me of like, oh, it's not me, it's the game I'm playing. That's just the game. Oh, okay, this is how this works. And so I don't know what it was in me then, but I'm really glad that there was like this little sliver of wisdom that was just kind of already there in that moment. Because, man, I mean, I very easily could have just been like, this sucks, I don't want to do this, this is stupid, and then just went back to college and did anything else.
Take us through the milestones and the inciting incidences that, you know, kind of help push the needle along in succession and origin of, like, you know, from that point to where, you know, that kind of helped move along. And then there was the next step. Take us through the steps of your career a little bit.
Oh, goodness, man. I mean, it was just a matter of open micing very early on, as much relentlessly, just all of Northern California. That was a good thing about where I was, is where I live in Northern California. It's a great place to start doing comedy because you're within about a 2 or 3 hour radius of driving of any type of audience that is representative of somebody you're going to find in the rest of the country. You know, you want an East Coast type of audience that's got a little bit of nitty grittiness to them. There are certain parts of the Bay Area and the South Bay that you can go to, and you will get exactly that kind of feel. You know, you want something that's a little bit more working class, go up past north of Sacramento. You'll find some working class red people that are down to party and have fun, but there's like three things I really don't want to talk about. So like there's no shortage of every different type of audience. So I mean, I was just open micing relentlessly. From there, you start showcasing. Once you start showcasing, you start hosting. After you start hosting, you start middle opening acting on the road. And then after that, you can slowly start like headlining C rooms and B rooms and work your way up from there. And that's most of what I ended up doing. I mean, the open micing, the showcasing led ultimately to a lot of good bookings and getting on the road a lot early on, which was very, very beneficial to me. But I also like moved to LA and tried to figure out what that was like, because I was told you just should. It's like LA or New York. And I was like, I don't want to do New York because that's like a whole transplant thing. I at least want to be close to my family and people that I know. So I was like, let's try LA, I guess. And I found out very quickly that it's just not a stand-up town. LA is more for if you want to act or do something in front of or behind the camera. And I learned very quickly through bad management and representation that it was not a stand-up town, because I was like, I just want to do stand-up, and they're like, we see you as more of like a game show host. Like we don't see value in you as a stand-up. I remember they told me that. We were my management at the time, the guy, because it was a couple, and the guy, we were having like lunch at Jerry's Deli, and he sat across from me non-ironically in a captain's hat and told me that he didn't see value in me as a stand-up comic. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to prove you wrong? And they were like, well, you win like comedy competitions, you do comedy festivals, you do well in those, eventually we hear about you. And that's how we see value in comics. And I was like, fine, I'm out of here. And so I very quickly left after being down there for almost 2 years with my wife. And the next year after I moved back, I won the San Francisco International Comedy Competition. Nice. And then the next 3 years, I best of the fested 6 comedy festivals, and then ended up recording my first Drybar special in the end of 2019, which was another just drop in the bucket that just happened to. It was something I figured that I wanted to do when I saw that Drybar was a thing. I was like, oh, this is kind of a similar type of thing to like when I used to watch Comedy Central Presents back in the 90s. Like they're doing like 20 to 25 minutes, which is the same amount of time. Roughly around the same amount of people are seeing these as saw those comedy specials back in the day. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this seems to be something that's similar to what I used to watch. Well, let's try and, write clean and go that way. And then it was a matter of, I got a recommendation from a friend, and he had done a Drybar special and he knew the guy who booked it. And he's like, hey man, you should really book Myles Weber. I heard he's been emailing you. And like, if there's anybody who I could put my name on, I would say he would be ready to do it. And then I got a call from the guy who books the Drybar specials. And he was like, hey, I had a dropout this Saturday. And it was like Tuesday. And he was like, can you come to Utah and film? Because I got a recommendation from you, and I don't, take those lightly. I take those to heart, especially from that comedian, Key Lewis. And so he was like, can you do this? I was like, 100%, absolutely. So I had gigs booked in Chicago that weekend. I canceled them. I had a weekend at a club that I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to go do this other thing. And so, yeah, I went out, did it, felt great. And then I think it came out the end of 2020, because initially they were like, it's going to come out March 2020. And I was like, oh, March 2020 is going to be the best year of my life. Oh, what a wonderful dream March of 2020 is going to be. Well, how could a bad thing possibly happen that month? My Drybar special is going to come out. Right. And so because of that, it got pushed back to the end of the year. And then it ended up doing well and prompted them to ask me to film a second one. And so I did the second one. And now I'm at a point in my career where I want to do something a little bit more. So I wrote this 90s stand-up special that I've been doing for the last year, and writing and honing. And so I'm going to be filming that in Northern California at a theater next month, but we're using like proper camera equipment and everything so that hopefully we could sell it to a streaming platform after it's all done as is. And then, yeah, man, hopefully that'll be the next drop in the bucket of thing I'm going to do. I don't know how a lot of people are going to see it, but I mean, we're putting enough time and energy and money into this thing that however it happens, a lot of people are going to see it. I release myself from the specificity of the outcome and just trust that I'm going to make the thing and the people who it's for are going to find it.
Well, you got to just exercise the promotion aspects of it all. That's the part most comedians have to be their own business guy. Yeah, the really interesting fact about you just finished that recording that first Drybar at the end of 2019. Is that when it was when you got done filming that? That's like what a perfect wave you because they were looking for content because everything got shut down, and you were right there going. Right. I know a lot of guys that actually had scheduled to do something in March of 2020, and they got screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that I had something in the can that was set to be released that year at all was just, there are a million instances like that in my life that I can look back at and be like, oh my God, like that seemed at the moment like something that was so inconsequential and it ended up being so important. Or, oh man, in the moment that seemed like the worst thing. And then a little bit of time came around and I'm like, oh man, that ended up being the best possible scenario that I went through that. So yeah, man, tons of instances like that where things just lined up perfectly.
I think it could be like that because are you still very prolific? You seem like you were very much so, like you're very active. You're still very hungry and working a lot. You're working all the time. Do you like a shark looking for opportunities?
Oh goodness. I would say actually since the pandemic, I probably work less. Cause I would say between 2015 and 2020, every year I was working minimum 40 or 45 weeks out of the year, which, hell of a way to keep a wife on layaway back home,
No shit.
So yeah, she was always a trooper. Like my wife has been around from the beginning and has always been my biggest supporter unwaveringly. But that's just no way to go about it when I'm just gone all the time. That does suck. And then in 2020, we were just both so busy and both doing so much that we actually briefly separated for a second because we were like, hey, we both have some stuff going on in our career right now that if we could take a year or two and really push, we might be able to reconvene and then really do something special and carve out some time. So let's see if we can do that. And we decided that like 3 days before we went into lockdown in 2020. Like, but then we had some good talks and came to the realization of just like, hey man, we like each other. Like, it's great if you love the person you're with. It's something on a different level when you like the person. Like, we're homies too. Like, we're attracted to each other, of course, but we are also genuinely like friends with each other. And we like spending time with each other. So it was like, okay, what does it look like if I could be home more? What does that actually look like? Can I swing that? And then it was a matter of trying to carve out, all right, I remember I met Brian Regan randomly in San Francisco. He just walked into the green room when I was working at Cobb's with Sebastian Maniscalco one weekend. And I was like, and he's like, hey, I was doing the theater across town. You guys want to grab a drink after the show? I'm like, sure, Brian Regan. And I remember I asked him because I was like, you don't live in like LA or New York, like everybody says to. He's like, no, I live in Vegas. And I was like, okay, and you just live in a normal neighborhood with your family? He's like, yep. And I'm like, how many days a year do you work? And he's like, about 100. And so I'm like, dude, give me that. And you can still like go to the grocery store and stuff. People aren't chasing you down. Like you still have your family. You still love your family. Like that makes more sense to me. And so then I just was like, all right, well, let's try and do that. And so since 2020, I've kept it under 100 days away from my family every single year. This year, we've had some more things that we've had to deal with in our family personally with some of the older folks in our family. So I've been out even less this year. But once the special is shot and sold, next year I will be a lot more busy and it'll probably be closer to the 100 days a year. But yeah, especially because 2.5 years ago, we had a kid too, on top of that. That was the next thing. And so then it was a matter of like, okay, now I really have even more so the invested interest of how do I find a good work-life balance to where I'm not just burning the candle at both ends, having a family to lease at home and then going out and doing my own thing. I need to be able to try and balance both as best I can and bring them when I can. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been a lot of work for sure, but I mean, it's been extremely rewarding in the same aspect.
It takes a special people to work that out, that work-life balance, but especially for a comedian, because now you met your wife when you were, or your significant other, when you were doing stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you met? Was she in the crowd?
Yeah. It was at the home club, Pepper Bellies in Fairfield. We had a mutual friend who was doing stand up. And so he was on the showcase I was hosting, and she happened to be there. And we were both seeing other people at the time. But I remember that, she was, one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. And she was auditioning for Tough Enough for WWE to be a professional wrestler. And so I love professional wrestling. I was like, oh my God, I've never met such a pretty woman who liked wrestling too. And so we were just both enamored by that. And struck up a friendship for 3 years. And then eventually we're both single around the same time and gave it a shot. And here we are so many years later. But yeah, she met me in the stand-up world as a comedian, very much so. And then kept coming to shows constantly from that point on. And still to this day, as my co-writer of all of my specials, because we work on all the bits together, because she gets it and she's funny. She still comes to the shows, and it's because she is a part of the process and she wants to see how the new joke does and where it works and where it doesn't work and what we could try instead and how the audience perceived it and who else is on the lineup and how they're growing based off of how she saw them last time we worked together. And so she understands so much about the industry and how it works on the front end and the back end. If she ever decided to do it, she'd be great at it. But she's just like, I would never do that to you. And your self-esteem, I'd let you have this. And I'm like, thank you, because you would be better at it. We know you. So yeah, man, she's been around from the beginning and has understood what this is and how it all works. What
a healthy, great, set of tools and experiences you have. I mean, you're like the ultimate. You're mentoring other comedians. You can mentor them on. We haven't talked about your writing process, but like mentor them on the whole, just being a stand-up comedian and work-life balance and relationships and the whole gamut. You've done it.
I'm trying. Thanks, man. I'm really, really trying. And that's funny because that's why I started doing the coaching from home. Like during the pandemic, I saw a lot of comics who were struggling for their own sense of identity because they called us unessential. And, they're like, man, what? And they weren't doing good. And so it started off as a means to just kind of like have a network for comics to talk to other comics who understood what we were going through. And then in that process, we would eventually get around to the subject of like, well, I mean, like, what are any bits you working on? Like, what are you writing, man? Like, what's going? And then I would help them develop material. And I really, really, really like doing that. And the ideas I was given, they were like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And so that just kind of blossomed into me eventually having my own coaching company, which is Green Room Talk. And it's me and another handful of stand-up comedians who are other working headliners who tour around the country, who are actually doing it, who are just trying to help comedians understand just what we were talking about. Like not just the right joke, perfect joke, perform it, film it, and then go do it again. But the whole back end of the business, being professional on stage and off stage, what every little nook and cranny and detail that entails. And then also the work-life balance. Like, do not burn down a family that is worthwhile in the name of success in this industry, because that is the sacrifice. You can get to the top very, very quickly, but there's a reason that they say it's lonely at the top, because there's only room for one. And so you can't bring them with you up there. There are certain levels where it gets too high, you fly too close to the sun, and you lose everything that you love. So don't burn it down, because I have had too many comics who I was in the car with or at the bar with after the show on their third, fourth marriage with a drink in their hand going, don't do what I did, kid. I was gone my whole life. I did all the bad things. I cheated. My kids, they're grown. They don't really like me now. They kind of just tolerate me. Like, I was gone. Don't do what I did. And so I've seen where like the money and the status and everything that fame and fortune of being the top person, I've seen what it could bring you. And it's also extremely lonely. And so there's a way for you to have a really nice piece of real estate on that mountain that's pretty high up, but it isn't the top, and you could bring them with you. It just needs to be a matter of like, what is enough to you and what's really important to you? Because there's comics who I've met who like have a wonderful support system and they're really starting out at this. And I'm like, get your calendar out, date night. That isn't to do with comedy. Do something to water that plant. Don't wait to give it water till it's dying. You know, you got to give that thing attention all the way throughout so it stays looking good, man. So water your relationship in that regard. So yeah, that's why I started doing the coaching, is so that way, yeah, if I can help you be funny, that's really, really a great aspect that I enjoy of the process. But sneakily, I also want you to live a happy, sustainable life that is worth living and writing about, that is going to be awesome all the way around with the people that you love, that isn't just going to be so bitter about things. You know, there's a way to balance it both, where it can be a very rewarding way to spend your time.
I tell you how much I appreciate that. I like that, just your skill set, your understanding of all that, and how you articulate it. That's just awesome. Where are you at today? What's going on with your career and your life right now? You know, currently.
Right now, currently, we are full steam ahead because I am less than a month away from recording this special. So I am just in meetings most days, just about things that I didn't ever anticipate. Like, it had nothing to do with the content. It's all just like the lights. Like, what kind of film do you want over the lights? Because that's going to be in this shot and that. And then do you want the camera to be on an 8-foot long pipe or a 6-foot long pipe? We could do 6.5, but that's going to be things that I'm just like, I just want to show up and just tell the jokes. Can I just show up and tell the jokes? Mm-hmm. And so since I'm producing this myself and doing all this on the back end, it's just been so much of that, to the point where I'm trying to just hit like open mics to try and rekindle the enthusiasm of just getting up there and just killing. So I'm trying to blend that right now with the shows I'm doing, because I've got shows between now and the recording that are devoted to running the set. So I have it down and it's all tweaked. But then I have shorter sets that are booked around those sets that are just me, like, go up and kill. Just whatever that means. Like, throw the set list away, caution to the wind, be in the room with these human beings, go up there and just try and turn it on all the way to 11 and kill as hard as you possibly can, whatever that means. And that's been fun, because it's just kind of like it's like working upper body and legs, you know, in the gym. So right now I'm just like training both relentlessly in a weird way, in hopes that by August 3rd, when I record this thing, both of them just merge together. And I've got a set that is like, yeah, we've laid the tracks of this is how the set is, but there's going to be this fun layer of maybe a little bit of improvisation and in the moment things that can maybe they can meet head on. And that blend is going to be where I can find the sweet spot. And so now it's just a matter of doing that as much as I possibly can until it's time to record it. And then once it's recorded, I've got a little bit of time off in August. And then when fall hits, I'm back in full swing of coming and going, bouncing around the road, and going to the East Coast a couple of times, and the Midwest a few times, Texas, and then up in the Pacific Northwest. So I'll have a very busy fall for sure. So, and then hopefully next year, this special will be on a platform, and I could be like, hey, yeah, there it is. Go watch it on that thing.
That's fascinating. That's great. Long term, you plan out 5 to 10? What's your long term plan?
I mean, it's these days it's hard for me because I've seen my plan evolve so much from when I started. I think the only thing that's really held true since I started, and that's probably because I've boiled it down to just what it always was as it evolved and grew and changed, is for me personally with my career, I've always wanted to be like, you can put my name on that building and people are going to show up. That's it. Like that's really, I will take care of the rest of what happens from that point. But you put my name on that building, people show up. And so that's always been the boiled down goal, because that's something that's very malleable. You can add a lot of different types of add-ons to that type of goal, and it could mold and evolve over time. It's not as stringent and specific, but still makes a lot of sense. So for me personally, that's still the goal, is, put my name on the building, people will show up. Once I get there, maintaining that. It's almost like defending your title, okay, we're up here now, stay up here, keep getting people to come, make sure they come back happy. So that's for the personal stand-up goal. For my coaching company, I would love for it to be a school. I would love to have some type of stand-up school online. And I know that there are a couple of comedians who are trying to make a similar type of thing happen. I would love to merge with them on the process, and for there to be like an upstanding, actual, even physical, like university for stand-up comedy as an art form. And I would love to teach it. That's something that I could see myself doing locally. If like there was a place where I could go teach comedy physically or even online, so I can be home more. Absolutely. That's something I could do in the winter and the summer when I don't really want to tour a lot anyway. And then I could tour a lot in the fall and the spring. Let's just do that. So that's the work aspect of things. And then on the personal side of things, just raise a good family. My wife and I have a 2.5-year-old, want to keep showing him the love that I possibly can and be around for him as much as I can, be around for my wife as much as I possibly can. We've entertained having one more and putting a cap on it and calling it a life. So at some point, I'm sure we'll do that. And then, man, this space, just having a healthy, happy, loving family and making sure I can water that family as much as I can. And then having the stand-up side of thing be like, I want to make people happy, get people in the building from my stand-up. I want to make people happy. And then I want to make other people help make people happy. Like, can I make other comedians better than they are now through maybe a few things that I know? Can I help teach the gift of giving joy to people? Because that's really what we're doing, is we're dealing dopamine. Is just come get a hit, everybody. We're going to make you laugh for an hour and forget a lot of the things that are going on in your life. You'll come in one way, you'll leave better. And I love seeing what I have in that aspect of like, that's really what I love. I love seeing that in other comedians. And when I see those comedians, I want to try and help them in any way as much as I possibly can. And so, man, I just want to keep making people happy, and from the top down in the industry.
You got the goods. A good friend of mine is Greg Dean. He's a comedy writer.
Oh man, I read his book when I started. That is still a book that I tell people about. Step by Step Stand Up by Greg Dean.
Yeah. So Greg and I started doing stand. I'm a ham and egger. I go off and on. I'm one of those guys that then I'll do it for a stretch of after 5 years, and I'll go off and on for I started when I was 18. In 1986 in San Fernando Valley in Encino at a place called Ellie Cabaret. Mm-hmm. And a year later, I met Greg when he was teaching in 1987 at the Haunted Studios in Hollywood Boulevard. And I've gone off and on with him ever since. And he's been on the podcast and we talk all the time. And you got the goods. I don't know what you're writing. He's got like a science, as written down for how he writes material. I love that. It's like his joke mining, content and all that. But you have the goods you're a working comedian, you're in the mix, and you're a dad, you're a husband, or you got a significant other, and you have all this going on. You just got a sense about you that I really think that would be a great value. I think, and you're passionate about it too. So I think it's
absolutely, man. Absolutely, I mean, fantastic, 100%.
Let's promote that. Let's Myles Weber, tell everybody how they can find out more about you and what you're doing.
Yes, if you go to my website, mylesweber.com, full schedule's on there. You can go to the ticket link for tickets near you and also join my email list on there. You can follow me on social media from that same page as well, at Myles Weber Joker on most things except for Facebook. It's at Myles Funny. And then my coaching company is greenroomtalk.org is the website. So in the winter later this year, we're going to be doing our first semester where it's going to be like a 6 to 8 week course where there will be hour-long lectures taught on various subjects to do with stand-up comic by the comedians who are the working comedians who teach in my company. And then there will also be like a one-on-one aspect of it as well. So we're going to be doing that later this year. So greenroomtalk.org. Check that out. We still have like one-on-one coaching packages offered there. So yeah, man, that's all the fun stuff. Come see me live. Yeah.
You're the guy to talk to. I could see you you're like the perfect, young comedian, just, bombed. And that's that crossroads where they're thinking about giving up, and that you're the guy they call, and you put it all in perspective, and in such a really cool way.
I've had those calls often.
I can tell. And you're good at it. You're good at I could see that you would be good at talking somebody off that ledge and saying, man, is there a venue else that is going on tonight? You probably would tell them, just get right back up there right now. See if you can go to that other place. It's 11 at night. You could probably go on at 12. Just go up there and do it again or something. Would you tell them something like that, right?
Depends on the situation, man. Because I've had situations where, I mean, there's comics who they bomb so terribly, they're just like, oh my God, it's like the third time I bombed in 2 weeks, and I just and so I want to know more details about it and everything. And then it's a matter of just like, okay, well, I mean, like, what are the things that weren't working, and is there anything we can do differently now? Because I'll try and give them a different aspect. They're like, okay, you're doing this joke this way, maybe we need to tweak it this way and do it this way. And then once they've got something different and a different game plan, I'll be like, go get up there, man. Go find a mic and try and make it happen. So, but I mean, we're at least going to adjust the plan, you know, because I'm not going to just send you back out there like, do it 1,000 times till it's funny. So yeah, man, I'm just going to be like, okay, well, what do we, and so that's the idea where it is this, you're coaching, you know, I mean, you're trying to see it from all the angles that, you know, when they're too close to the material or too close to the situation, they aren't seeing certain things. Or I give them the aspect of just like, yeah, but I mean, like, look what you did here at this place, you know, this place, you're in there a lot. So they understand that you're just working it out. So you don't need to take it personally there. And so some of it's just telling them like, the sky isn't falling. You're going to be okay. It's fine. Like, some comic was trashing me on the comedy board and now everybody knows this, that. Give it a week, give it some time. Like, so yeah, it's diffusing a lot of atomic bombs where comics, we live and die a million times a day in our own head. And I got to kind of be like, well, okay, well, let me poke holes in a little bit of this logic that you're doing right now and just trying to bring them back down to reality so that they want to do this again. And then every now and then you get somebody who's just like, yeah, I thought this was going to be a completely different thing. And it turns out there's a lot more work that's involved in this. And I don't know if I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, right on. That's fine too.
Yeah.
At least you know.
That's right. That's right. Because it is a lot of writing and driving and the stay and afterwards and there's so much. It's such a time sucker. There's a problem. I've left a lot of money on the table, you know, off and on throughout my life with stand-up comedy, and it's something that there's a lot of time involved. So get ready for that.
Yes. Yeah, man, it's dedication. It's dedication. Still one of the best advice I got early on in my career was from Louis Anderson, and I still give it out, which is get on stage 1,000 times as fast as you can, because that's the game early on. And that takes time, energy, gas, money, resources, like time spent away from your loved ones. And so, like, I've got a comedian who I'm coaching now, and she's got a very supportive husband. And so I'm just helping her navigate, like, all right, do all of these open mics and showcases and all that. But we got to come back to like, you guys need to do something for you. So, you know, make sure you've got that time carved out, man. So, I mean, so yeah, there's such
great,
the
man.
aspect of the whole thing of it.
You got your own flavor going. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Myles Weber, check him out. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to bolotour.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.